today we are gonna have a short interview with Johnna Wu, who is a violinist with Ensemble 212. Hi, Johnna.
Hi, Elle. Thanks so much for having
Yeah,
me.
of course. Thank you so much for coming on to the interview.
Yes, excited to talk about all of the things that have been going on for
Yeah,
musicians and
what's new?
so well, everything is new and nothing at all. Uh yeah, just for me, I'm doing my DMA program at CUNY in the city. So I've been here in New York ever since the pandemic and long before that. And yeah, and it's been, I can't imagine being stuck anywhere else. Uh, but it's yeah, a lot of things are different, and I know a lot of just adjusting to teaching online, learning online, taking lessons online, giving lessons online, all that stuff that I think all musicians can relate to, and keeping optimistic and staying healthy and hopeful.
Well, the vaccine is approved today in the US, so that's a good news. Yeah.
Yes, yes, very good news. Yeah, I think everybody has a lot to look forward to in 2021.
Yeah, we are so ready.
Yeah, yeah, I know, I know.
So, okay, so start it off. Could you give us some brief self introductions?
I was born in Chengdu, China, and I immigrated to with well, my parents were in Indiana, so I moved in with them when I was 4, and we lived in Indianapolis and until I was about um, 14, and then I moved to Philadelphia. When I was in Indiana, I got to study with Mimi Zweig at the amazing Indiana University. It was like a really amazing time to be learning violin there. Anyone who knows her is like, yeah, she's amazing. And then when I moved to Philly, I was a part of the Temple Prep program in high school, and I did my college undergrad at Columbia University, and that was a big change in my life because at that point I wasn't sure if I was going to be doing music anymore. So it was a lot of self exploring and self knowing like what I wanted to do. So I was a biology major and I was doing pre med, and I ended up also just studying a lot of music and also being a music major on top of that. And yeah, and wasn't playing too much near the end of college. And yeah, for about 2 years, I kind of really didn't touch the violin for some time. But then I worked for a year and realized that I really there was something missing, and I really needed to have music back in my life because I thought about it all the time. And when you think about something and miss something all the time, you're like, well, yeah, that's what I need. So I ended up going to Juilliard for my master's for 2 years, and after that, I wanted to go abroad because then I was like, wow, I've lived in New York for so long at this point. So I lived in Berlin for a year, well, on and off during the past couple of years. And that's where I really became interested in improvisation and contemporary music because there was a big improvisation scene there called the Excite and yeah, and it was, I mean, it was amazing just living in another country. I mean, the years I spent as a little baby in China really don't count. I was not responsible for anything and I don't remember anything, but living in a different country and learning a new language and being in a totally different scene of music and just day to day life, being able to like survive was it like makes you realize so much about yourself. And I always tell everybody, like, if you're thinking about living abroad, or if you're if you've never lived in another country in your life, you have to because it really challenges who you are and what you think about yourself. And yeah, and so I returned to New York, and um, I decided to start my own ensemble, PinkNoise. And my husband has been a part of it. And after he moved here, we started to really work on it a lot together. And that's been something just so wonderful. And even throughout the whole pandemic, we've been like sharing ideas with each other. We've been in touch, and it's just been such an important lifeline ever since I returned from Europe.
So how did you first get into that improv electronic new music scene in Berlin?
I was introduced to Harry Schustrom, who was the saxophonist of Cecil Taylor's quintet. So that I mean that was it was just that quintet is incredible. And I was introduced through a teacher who I was studying with at the University of Berlin, and he was friends with Hari, so I got introduced to the two of them. And I started improvising with Hari, and it became something that we did regularly. It kind of was really crazy because I started playing immediately. And that's a part of like that was part of the beauty of it all, is that everybody was welcomed.
Hmm.
You didn't have to be like a trained classical musician. If you had a musical idea, whether it was like your own body, your voice, anything, you could get you know a gig, and people would listen to you play if you had if you could get people together. So yeah, it was kind of crazy. It was a crazy time.
It seems like it's very warm, welcoming, inclusive, very encouraging musical environment in Germany.
Yeah, the musical culture there is very organized. Like in terms of funding, in terms of like what the audience is like. You have your classical audiences, which are, bountiful. There are a lot of people who enjoy classical concerts. I don't think I've ever been to a concert where it wasn't, there were a lot of people at every concert I played at in Germany. I can't say that the same about the US, unfortunately. And you have your jazz enthusiasts, your jazz audience, and then you have your contemporary music world, which is, it's funded by the government. It thrives and it's amazing, and there are a lot of ensembles. But those audiences tend to be different than the classical ones. People know what they want to hear. And that's like a lot of programming has a lot to do with that too. So it's very rare, at least when I was there. Things change all the time, so I can't really like put a big generalization on it, but it's very rare that you'll see a concert with both contemporary and classical pieces on it.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
Because in the US, we tend to have, you have your classical repertoire, and, you have to have your, contemporary repertoire all together in one concert. That's kind of a general, I guess, principle that we go for in programming.
Yeah, yeah, it's something that I really appreciate. And I think that makes a really thoughtful and interesting concert. Yeah, I'm sure there are people in Berlin who have really amazing concepts for programming. But that was just my sense of it when I was there. Um, but yeah, so that was my improv and contemporary music. Well, my contemporary music experience was mostly in the university at Universität der Künste, and I was a part of a new music ensemble that started there. And I was very lucky to be a part of that. And I was working with composers all the time, and I got to perform their works. And that was when I learned so much more about music than I thought I ever could. Just learning new pieces, like week after week and being, like confronted with such difficult things, really made me a better musician. And that's when I kind of realized, oh, wow, like I'm no longer only interested in classical music. I mean, that has been that was like the case before I even went to Berlin. Like when I started violin again, it was like, okay, now I know, like I've had all these experiences in my life. I can't just be like I can't have a one track mind anymore. I want to know what makes me love music. And it's not just the idea of like it's wonderful, but just playing a concert of like recital of Brahms violin concerto and maybe a nice Chrysler encore is no longer the vision I have for my ultimate uh, uh, career or yeah, and so I think that's kind of the path that got me there. It was like a very important turning point in my life.
So the group that you founded in New York, what's the main focus or what's your vision for this group and what are you doing with the group currently?
Yeah, so PinkNoise is what I call an electronic chamber ensemble. So it's Pierrot instrumentation, so flute, clarinet, cello, piano, violin, and then we have electronics. Um, and a part of it is that we integrate improvisation into our contemporary music programming. And we actually, well, this idea I recently came up with was like structuring a program around improvisation. So we would have new works that we commission, and we've been trying to commission more and more works. But and we're relatively new, so the pandemic was kind of it's been sad because it put a stop to something that was like doing so well. Um, but I mean, things will come back. But we've been even during the pandemic. We've commissioned a piece by Jesse Cox, and we rehearsed completely virtually, so through Jam Kazam, this program that allows you to play in real time. The ultimate project is going to be launched very soon, and it's going to be a website, interactive website. Yeah, and it's based on like very structured improvisation. I mean, I don't think Jesse would call it an improvisation. That category isn't probably something that is useful for all the things that the music is, because there are ways that we do play together, and putting it on a website allows the listener to choose like what they want to hear. So that's been the big project that I'm excited about launching very soon.
You've been staying very productive over the pandemic time.
Well, I've been really lucky that I've had a structure with school and with lessons. My teacher, Mark Steinberg, has been so generous to still give lessons like every week throughout the pandemic. And like, you know, I don't know how you felt, but, it was hard to practice. Like, it was hard to balance, like, oh, like, when do I need to teach? When do I need to run around? When I need to go to school? When do I need to cook for the whole week? Like, when do I need, like, time alone, time to sleep, and practice? Like, when do I have time to practice and have all these concerts? It was, like, overwhelming. And as soon as the pandemic hit, it, like, put a stop to everything. And it was like, okay, now only focus on one thing. Do only one thing at a time, and like, what is that going to be? And it was like, oh, obviously practicing violin, because that's what I love the most, and that's what gets me through day to day. And I hadn't been doing that for the past few years because life got really difficult. um so yeah, no, it was so important to be doing that.
I feel like the pandemic, of course, there are some difficulties that came with it, but on the other hand, it was a blessing in a disguise. In you know, like it really pushed everybody to reflect inward and really focus on what's important and what's truly meaningful in life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And it's sad in a way that, chamber music isn't existent right now in the way that in any way that we could have ever imagined. But the idea that, it will come back, and the idea that, there's hope for this amazing thing to return, when it does, it's going to be better than ever, is like very amazing, to look forward to. So yeah, and I do, completely understand and feel how difficult it is, not just financially, socially, but also emotionally, for musicians not to be able to perform, not to be able to do our job as performers. Like that's something so sad. And for me, it's kind of like I wish I always had the chance to practice performing, because that's so necessary, right? Like if you don't practice performing, you lose a bit of your craft. But now I think everybody's in the same boat. And, it's like, well, I mean, was that really what it was all about? Like, was that all just about performing all the time, instead of like reflecting, as you say, and like focusing on your craft and reflecting on who you are? Obviously, the answer is like, no, nothing can ever replace that, right? So, yeah, I feel for, all of us.
Okay, so the next question I have is, if you have any advice for classical music listeners, to expand our boundaries to new music and, like new music with electronic sound and things like that, the expertise that you have in this genre. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that, classical contemporary music isn't that different. It's not a totally different technique of listening, at least not for me. Contemporary music, the reason why I like it is because I get such an extreme feeling for it. And I listen for, uniqueness of sound, because the sound world, that I've never heard before, really interests me. And, how sounds work is, something, a new completely, composers are exploring this topic like continuously, and it's just amazing how many new ideas come about. And, like the electronic sound world is so appealing to me, and all the rhythmic varieties of contemporary music too, is also so appealing to me. And, well, I guess like one of the, I don't know, composers that nobody likes is probably Schoenberg, right? Like people even now, I mean, he's been gone for a long time and people still don't like him, right? It's kind of like, well, how do you get somebody to like Schoenberg, right? If nobody liked him even back then and nobody will like him now, how do we get future audiences to like him? Um, Again, it's like the same things I hear in Schoenberg, who is like one of my favorite composers. Like I just have to say that. Like there's such an emotional element to it. Like the idea that it's not emotional and that it doesn't appeal to us humans is kind of like, I don't know, not fair to the idea of music. Yeah, because there's something truly human and truly, well, existential. Like there's something so touching about his music that, I don't expect to touch somebody else in the same way, but, I get the same feeling from Schoenberg as I would get from like parts of Mahler 5, like this overwhelming sense of like, wow, like I can't really articulate into words what I'm feeling in the moment, but it's just amazing. And, it's like deeply moving. I don't think that one should really try to push someone to like something that they don't like, you know. But I think it's really worth having more than one listen. Like if you listen to Shinberg more than once, I guarantee you the second time, the third time will be a different world. Like it'll be a different feeling. It's not fair to, you know, it's kind of like when you meet somebody for the first time and they had a really bad day, so their first impression was terrible, or you made a really bad first impression because you had a really bad day. I've had those moments so many times. Like, it's like that doesn't nearly encapsulate what the whole person or what the whole piece is about at all at that moment. It requires a lot of attention and care and all the listening details that one has accumulated while listening to historical classical music.
Let's talk about your experience with Ensemble 212. So what's your most memorable moment with Ensemble 212?
Yeah, definitely Mahler 5 was my most memorable experience. Not just because of how amazing the piece is. I mean, of course, like how can you forget playing that piece ever? But also because I think it was so funny because Yunjae, on the first day of rehearsal, I was like, I had practiced. I was prepared to play through it. But then nothing will scare me as much as the fact that like he was like, oh, okay, the concertmaster who usually plays concertmaster is not going to be here. So can you play concertmaster? And I was like, I was like, well, the solos, I don't know. It was like, oh, wow. I guess I really, really need to know not just my part, but everybody else's now.
Rehearsals were there for that concert?
Uh, I think they're usually 3 or 4, including dress rehearsal, and then there's a concert, right? Or something like that. It ended up being fine. But that was a big project for me. I mean, like playing Mahler for anybody for the first time, I think. Yeah. And getting to meet Yoonjae has been like, I mean, he's just really inspiring in a lot of ways. But the fact that he himself like put together that orchestra and has been getting it through so many years and has just been doing everything. It's just so impressive. Yeah, it's very, very impressive. I admire Yoonjae for so many things, but also because like as an Asian American, he like really taps into what it means to be like an Asian American like entrepreneur in music these days. And I just like so value how he brings the community of musicians together in his own way, as like as much work as it is. And yeah, and so it's something, you know, I identify with a lot. And I know how hard it is too, because you're starting from nothing. um, yeah, you have to do everything yourself. And I just, yeah, part of I really admire that about 212, and I think it's something that it's what makes it special, you know, if the person who's the conductor is also the one who's like working for the musicians and like building everything up from scratch. It's different than like the New York Phil, right? Where yeah, he brings his own like creative element into it too. Yeah, so I'm really excited to see what it'll be in the next few years. What'll be, yeah, what'll become.
Okay, so here's a fun question for you. If not violin or viola, what would be your choice of an instrument?
Funny story is I studied voice for quite a while when I wasn't so focused on violin, and I've been singing like for fun since I was a kid. So I would love to, and still like when I get invited to sing with choirs, it's like I'm very, very happy. So I would happily be a singer.
In classical music or in like jazz or pop music or what?
Well, I think I would be a pop singer.
Yeah. Those stuff.
Yeah, or something that doesn't allow me to where I don't have to do a lot of vibrato because I have like a very light voice. And I started out singing pop songs when I was a kid. So let's just keep on that path. Like let's just say that I'll be a pop singer sometime in my life.
Yeah. That's all the questions I have for today. But it was so great to chat with you. It
Yeah.
was really fun.
Thank you so much, Elle. This was wonderful. Yeah.
I'm really fascinated by your work and your passion for new music and everything. And I would love to see you thrive with your ensemble. What is it?
Pink noise.
PinkNoise. Yeah, PinkNoise. And yeah, really excited for the branching out of your musical journey.
Thank you so much.
Hopefully, I'll see you in person next year at concert.
That
Yeah,
would be amazing.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
coming. It's coming. Yeah. Okay. Have a great.
Okay. Thank you so much. We'll be in touch. Okay, take care. Bye. Bye.